I would say that is an extreme exaggeration of the situation. We have a problem with Ukraine in the first place, since the West tried to make out of Ukraine a geopolitical instrument against Russia, and we have to deal with this threat, and we are dealing it during these 2 years, in fact. And my look at it is that we are improving. Our country is stable politically and economically, and we defense industry works. We do not need a mobilization. Ukraine is hanging on the tiny rope right now of financement, since half of its budget is paid by foreign countries, by promises and all of that stuff. It is short of people on the front lines. It is short of everything on the front lines. And we are looking how it will continue. But speaking about existential threat for Europe, speaking about existential threat for values of Europe, it is nothing to do with the current situation over there.
You mentioned the geopolitical use of Ukraine. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, was in Kiev recently, earlier in the month, and he said during that visit, when he supplied another £2 billion of aid for Ukraine, he said that he thought Ukraine's natural place was within NATO. How do you respond to him?
It's a pity, because I have looked and read attentively the document that has been signed with Ukraine by Rishi Sunak and President Zelensky. Actually, this is a memorandum of not an agreement in legally binding agreement. It's a memorandum of promises, I would say. It summarizes British policy towards Ukraine. And it says that Ukraine will not get negotiated settlement. It should fight, and Britain will continue to supply it with arms, on the one hand. And on the other hand, that Ukraine should belong to NATO. In our view, it's a controversial statement because it does not still take into account interests of security of Russia. And that was one of the major reasons that we have now a conflict over there, and we need to continue a special military operation.
This has gone on for 2 years now. Now, I know that you've said in the past that Russia's objectives include what you call the denazification of Ukraine, which means the end of the Ukrainian government, I think, and also presumably the territorial grab of Russia against Ukraine. What happens after that? Do you actually, as a country, intend to occupy Ukraine militarily for a long period after the war?
No, I do believe, since you named some of the goals that we are trying to achieve, I think that we have done a certain progress, especially in the demilitarization of Ukraine, since it does not have any defense industry right now, not anymore. But as for occupation, this is not an occupation. It is integration more of the new territories into Russia. It means that we are reconstructing infrastructure over there. We are rebuilding states. We are providing new highways and all of that stuff. So these countries are getting reintegrated. And I hardly believe that they would like to change. People of these terrains would like to change the color of their passports once again.
What about the rest of Ukraine? What about Kiev and the west of Ukraine? Do you want that to be integrated into Russia as well?
Hardly. Actually, we respect the sovereignty of Ukraine, and we do not to squeeze it out at all. We need a normal neighbor with good neighborly relations, which that respects not only all people that live on its territory, multinationality, all languages that live over there, and that has normal relations with Russia, friendly relations, like it was for 300 before that.
This would be a country without any armed forces, wouldn't it?
Actually, we have had negotiations, in April 22 on that subject, and it was exactly said what kind of armed forces are supposed to be in Ukraine, how many tanks and all that stuff. As far as I remember, the draft was stipulating exactly what is non-threatening to Russia, what can be with what we regard in Ukraine. But then Ukraine suddenly withdrew from these negotiations, as far as we understand, under the pressure from the British Prime Minister at the time. And actually, we shall see what's going on. But the longer the fighting goes over there, the more terrain, of course, we will take.
And since you're discussing what's going on the front line at the moment, Russia seems to have changed military tactics recently and is using a huge quantity of North Korean and Iranian missiles and drones to try to overwhelm Ukrainian defenses. And we're told that after that, the big Russian bombers will move in. Is that a change of policy that's been discussed?
No. Yeah, well, I heard, of course, these rumors or things that has been taken out of the blue about North Korea and Iran and all of that stuff. No proofs has been delivered even at the Security Council, but I also understand that our defense industry complex is producing sufficient number of missiles, artillery shells, and all of that stuff that is needed over there. So
But you're acquiring missiles from North Korea, aren't you?
I don't think so. Why? It is.
Well, there's bits of missiles in Ukraine.
If proofs do exist, there was a couple of days ago Security Council session on that, but nothing proving that has been delivered over there.
All right, let me just be absolutely clear from the Russian side, because there have been discussions about potential peace talks. Anything involving the removal of Russian forces from territory that you now occupy, you are now in, is off the table. No deal that involves parts of Donbass for parts of Crimea or anything like that. That is all unacceptable to
I do believe it is out of question, because referendums in Crimea as well has been done. Referendums in Lugansk and Donetsk Oblast has been done, regions, and people was in favor of being included into Russia, like it was for 300 years before. As I have said, I hardly believe that they would like to be once again under Ukrainian governance over there.
Let me stay with the relations between Russia and the West at the moment. The Estonian Prime Minister this morning issued a very, very alarming sounding warning that if you win in Ukraine, you will be coming after the Baltic states next. And that is certainly the view of an awful lot of people in Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. And what's your response?
We live together peacefully with these people, Estonia, Latvia, and Latvia, also for 100 years. Of course, they might have their own concerns, but as I have said, our problem is a Ukrainian government right now, for obvious reason, of course. But at the same time,
living peace. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you were living peacefully with Ukraine as well.
Yes, we did until the West has started to do it anti-Russian instrument, geopolitical instrument. But as I would like also to attract your attention that we would like a respect from these small Baltic countries, those Russian people that are living over there. Otherwise, it might be difficult for us to understand that. We know that Latvia, for instance, is trying to expel all Russians that are living on this territory. It's about more than 1,000 of people.
I can see a casus belli here, as the Romans would say, and we know that NATO troops are in the Baltic states. Is this not inevitably going to be the next confrontation?
I don't think so, that it is a confrontation, but what we need is respect, equal treatment of everybody, every nationality over there, and normal neighborly living together, normal neighborly relations, what we need with Baltic republics, not alienation from us.
Let me talk about what's going on in other parts of the world as well, because Russia has voted in the UN Security Council resolutions for a ceasefire in the Middle East, in Gaza. And yet I assume that the Russian position is quite favorable to the Israeli position. The Israelis, like the Russians, say they face an existential threat. The Israelis are taking on the group Hamas, which they say are Nazis, just like you say they're Nazis. So do you have an instinctive sympathy for what Israel is doing?
Yes and no. We, of course, detest any terrorist activity, and it happened on the 7th of October. But on the other hand, we do not support at all what's going in Gaza right now by Israelis. First of all, I should say that our position is sort of balanced in a way that we do have around 14% of population, of Russian population in Israel, and we have a similar around 14% of Muslims in Russia. So we need to see balance in both of these baskets. But we do not support at all. We appeal that violence should stop in Gaza. Violence should stop in Gaza, not as a pause, but for forever. And negotiations should take place in order to arrange two-state solution over there. That's most important.
But they're doing to Gaza what you're doing to Ukraine.
No, I wouldn't say so. We never strike population. We never move population. We never try to expel population from like it is in Gaza sector. So the goal of Israel is now to remove. I wouldn't say it's a genocide, but this is close. In fact, this is close, and I would say that there are reasons for South Africa to raise this issue with the International Court of Justice. I'm not sure what kind of ruling it will be, because it will take some time, but really something like that. You cannot contain Palestinians like that forever. You need to give them a state solution. This is what is most important, and this is what Israel doesn't want to do, neither the United States, I'm sure. Although in wars they are supporting this idea, but in deeds they would like that Palestinian is a non-existent factor over there.
This conflict has been going on for 2 years now, and we don't know how long it's going to go on for, but we may be in the middle of it. We've spoken before, and the strong impression I got...
You speak about Ukraine now.
No, I'm speaking about Ukraine, I'm sorry. The strong impression I got was that the Russian view was that you would create a war economy, you would produce the munitions, the armaments that you need, you would change the economy to do that, and that you would be in it for the long term, whereas the West had a short attention span, would suffer Ukraine fatigue, and would eventually kind of give up. Is that what you think's happening?
I think that it's important for the British government in the first place, and for the West as a whole, to take a realistic view on the situation on the ground. Because if the current policy will be continued in a sense of sending troops, promising some money and providing some money, paying the budget and all that stuff, without any change in this policy, we will quickly arrive to a point when it will be a failed state in Ukraine. And a failed state, that's a realistic future. Realistic future, the state that has no economy, because industry doesn't work.
You've blown up quite a lot of its industry.
Military industry, yes. Others, no. Agriculture is 40% less. Half of population of Ukraine is now out of the country and do not want to return on it. So it has, and we have a lot of refugees across Europe which are living there, and they have no intention to return. You know that University of Ukraine will be cut by half next year, since no students are available over there.
And to return to something, I talked about the Baltic states, but there is a strong view across the east of the EU, the east of Europe, that if you win in Ukraine, you will push further. This is only the beginning. This is part one of a wider plan to expand the borders of Russia dramatically.
I hardly imagine that, since Baltic states belong to NATO, and Poland belongs to NATO, and I spent myself 10 years in NATO. I know what it is. It will be a big and serious confrontation, and as President Putin has stated many times, we have no intention to fight against other countries over there. We have a problem with Ukraine.
Well, let's talk about NATO, because the other thing that I imagine that the Kremlin is waiting for is the arrival of President Trump for a second time. President Trump has said that if he was in the White House, he would sort out the situation, the war in Ukraine, in a single day. He said he knows Zelensky, he knows Putin, he'd sort it out in a single day. Can you describe for me, Ambassador, what that day would include?
First of all, we do not comment on the subject of American presidency. We will work with the president that will be elected. As for president, the future possibility that President Trump, in spite of all things, in spite of things which are against him, will be in the White House, I can say only one thing, that he is unpredictable. This is what we have seen in the past.
Well, that is certainly true. Nonetheless, I mean, unpredictable or not, he has said again and again and again that he does not want to support NATO in the old way. He doesn't want to give American support inside NATO to NATO's European members. This is everything that Russia must be hoping for. This is a big moment for Russia.
I will say that the idea of American administration right now is to include Ukraine into Euro-Atlantic structures, European Union and NATO, in order just to disbarrass from Ukraine and to put this burden into Europe, onto European shoulders.
But nonetheless, a world in which America was not the fundamental backer of NATO in Europe would be a world much more comfortable for Russia.
Well, all this story has started more than 10 years ago, since the so-called Maidan happened in Ukraine. Maidan was supported by financially, politically, or in all other ways by the United States. In the first place, they have said even they have paid $1 billion to turn over the Ukrainian presidency and to bring to power these nationalists, radical nationalists, totally, absolutely. What we would like to see that the United States will take care of its own interests now, about Mexico, about other things, and withdraw its policy from other parts of the world.
And that is something you would welcome.
We would welcome it very much if they will concentrate finally on their own policy and allow other states. It will be multinational.
On their own continent.
Multinational world. Finally, we have lots of powers right now: India, China, South Africa, Brazil, Russia. And all of them, all of us would like to keep independent policy, not depending from the United States or what will be wishes over there and all of that stuff.
Coming finally back to the conflict, can you give me a guess, perhaps a personal guess, about how much longer this is going to go on?
Many are saying that the fight in Ukraine will continue until last Ukrainian will die. It is an exaggeration, of course, I do understand.
I'm going to fight for the last Ukrainian.
Last Ukrainian, yes. So it's a great exaggeration because I don't believe hardly that many Ukrainians are eager to die for this government, in particular, nationalistic government and its policy. That's a change of it. So, but it is sliding down. I'm not sure when it will be over, this summer or probably next winter or something like that, but the longer...
It could finish this summer, you think?
I do not know when they stay, but we did have, last 2 weeks, we did have a certain operational pause on the front lines. Before that, as you know, we have taken an active line. Right now, these activities on the Russian side, they will continue very quickly.
So you're going to carry on pushing forward at the moment?
I think
in advance.
At least information is saying that it can happen. It is.
Very final question. What are the prospects, what are the real chances for actual conflict at the moment between Britain and Russia?
I don't see any chance.
Zero?
Of conflict. Politically, yes. Politically, we're on a different side of the chessboard, let us say. But militarily, I don't believe that anything will happen. We are nuclear states. Russia has enormous capacity, and that Britain is as well a nuclear state. What kind of conflict may arise between us? There is a statement that commonly know that nuclear war should not be fought because it cannot be won.
Ambassador, thank you very much for talking to LBC.
Thank you very much.